Santiago Bernabeu Stadium, where the Miami Dolphins and Washington Commanders will be playing on Sunday in Madrid. First things first, I had to check out the view from the press box. This is a work trip covering the game for the Sun Sentinel at the home of Real Madrid. And if you know anything about Real Madrid, is they win a lot, 71 trophies in total, including a record 36 La Liga titles. Here I am with Mbappe. But this is an NFL game being played at this venue, so you know they have the Dolphin stuff all out there on display. The legends Don Shula, Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor, the Super Bowl trophies, Larry Zonka, Bob Greasy, Dan Marino, with the NFL going international, introducing fans in Spain to helmets of all 32 teams. Here are all the Super Bowl rings going back to Super Bowl I. Look at the difference in size from the current one. American football means American cuisine. Bathrooms clearly labeled, and so are the bars. Little known fact, Bernabeu is entirely enclosed in a glass case. Just kidding, but this lets you see what it looks like from the outside. But now let's take it down to field level, and what a sight to behold. I can imagine Devon Achane scoring touchdowns in this end zone. And of course, every tour concludes in the gift shop. They got to make you pass by here. Jerseys from every team, even got these Real Madrid NFL crossover jerseys if you're into that. I hope you enjoyed this tour. Make sure to follow along for all the Dolphins coverage in Spain.
Are the Miami Dolphins legit? Are the Miami Dolphins in the playoff hunt? Where have you seen the most improvement from the Dolphins so far this season? These are some of the questions that we are going to answer for you on today's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. What's going on, everybody? I am Chris Perkins, your host, your Miami Dolphins columnist for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. That is David Furones. He is your Miami Dolphins writer for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Furones, how you feeling today, man? You're back from across the pond.
I'm doing great. I think it's taken me a few days to get over the fatigue from the travel, all the jet lag, because I was tired pretty much the whole time there. But you just push through it and you enjoy Madrid, enjoy Spain, because you're not there all the time. It was the first time for me, and this is like where my ancestry is from, through Cuba, but
Yep.
like originally from Spain. So yeah, that was an experience, especially since I had never been. And how cool to get to cover the first NFL game there, and yeah, it was just an amazing experience. And but I was gonna say happy to be back, but am I really? I don't know. I wish I could just stay there. But...
Right, exactly. You could affect it. Right. It's good to have you back, man. And we're gonna hear from you later on in our Furones bonus about the trip. But first, we want to welcome all of our viewers on YouTube. As usual, we would invite you to leave a comment, question, thought on our live chat, the best place to get intelligent Dolphins talk. Some of the questions will be answered here online or on the air. Others will be answered online later today in a Q&A. We also want to remind you that if you miss any part of this show, you can catch the podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And we would like to invite you to sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Fans Flash, which you can subscribe to by scanning the QR code that'll be shown on your screen. So, Dolphins at 4-7, they won back-to-back games. They won 3 of their last 4. Are they in the playoff hunt? We're going to talk about that later on. Where have you seen the most improvement with this team? There's a lot of talk right now about the offensive line being a little bit better. We're going to talk about the improvements you've seen in this team. And then we're also going to do our Furones bonus. As I said, David Furones tells us about his trip back to the motherland, baby, back to Spain. So we're going to do all that and more. First, though, let me say this. The 26 semifinalists for the Hall of Fame have been announced. Some people that I want to see go in, or that we should all want to see go in because of their local ties. Richmond Webb, of course, for the Dolphins. We want to see Richmond Webb get in. I personally want to see Reggie Wayne get in. He's a Cane. He was one of my favorite Canes when I covered the team from 97 to 99. I've been waiting for Reggie Wayne to get in. Hopefully this is his year. Frank Gore, who has ties to the Miami Dolphins and the Canes. Vince Wilfork, who has ties to the Canes, and then Fred Taylor, of course, from UF. I don't know how many Gators are out there, but we're going to pull for Fred also. We're going to put his name in the hat. And now we will talk some Dolphins. As we always say, there's an ocean of possibilities. Let's dive in. There you go, baby. I'd like to see that. All right, so are the Dolphins in the playoff hunt? That's kind of a right now. I would say that they're not. They're at 4-7. The last playoff spot in the AFC is at 7-4. Buffalo has that last spot, who the Dolphins have split with. But the Dolphins have these must-win and should-win games coming up against New Orleans and against the New York Jets before going on the road to Pittsburgh for Monday Night Football. If they win their next three, Furones, they're at 500, and they will be in the chase, in the hunt, in the race for that final or for a wild card playoff spot. Do you consider them a playoff contender now, or do you have to wait for them to get to 6-7, 7-7? What's your threshold?
Yeah, I see these in the hunt graphics, and they're including the Miami Dolphins in them. To me, that's a bit premature, all right? Because you have, right now, the Dolphins are 3 games out of a wild card spot. And not only that, they have 3 teams that they're 2 games behind in between them and a wild card spot. So Dolphins at 4-7, you have Chargers, Jacksonville, and Buffalo all at 7-4 taking up the wild card spots. And then you have 6-5 Houston, Pittsburgh, and Kansas City with Pittsburgh. They're tied with Baltimore atop the AFC North, but the Ravens right now would have it. And if you're the Dolphins, you would want the Ravens to go ahead and win the North, since you wouldn't have a tiebreaker against them already losing that matchup. You have a chance to go win the head-to-head tiebreaker against Pittsburgh later in this season. So you are hoping that develops that way if you are aspiring for a playoff spot for the Miami Dolphins. But it's very premature right now at 4-7. I think they are in the hunt to be in the hunt. They're just like that, another tier off, because you can't look at 3 teams, one game out, and then say a team that is 2 games behind them is currently really in that race. You can look ahead and say, okay, well, they host the Saints, who are 2-8 right now. That's a very winnable, or 2-9. I'm sorry, they were 2-8 and just lost again. So you host the Saints. You should win that one to get to 5-7.
Yep.
You should go into East Rutherford, New Jersey, and beat the New York Jets, who are 2-9, but they also traded away Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. So That's going to be a more depleted roster than the one that you beat by more than a touchdown at home. So you should go and handle business there. You should get to what all the kids say, 6-7, 6-7. Going into that Monday night game against the Steelers, where then that'll be the tell. If you can win that one, now you're really talking about it. But also the conference record doesn't help with the Dolphins, since out of their 4 wins, 2 of them have come against NFC teams, being the Saints. I'm already getting ahead of myself. I'm already calling that they beat the Saints, but the Falcons and the Commanders. So if you had some more of those AFC wins in there, like if you would have beaten the Browns, let's say, then you might be in a little bit better of a spot. If you would have started 0-3 against, I know that's now proven to be a tough stretch of the Colts, the Patriots, and the Bills. But if you would have gotten one of those, so that you would have been 2-2 after you beat the Jets, all these things, they add up for the Dolphins. So the conference record especially is because even if you get there, then you're not winning a lot of tiebreakers as it stands, and you're already 3 games out with 6 weeks remaining.
So let me ask you this. What puts the Dolphins firmly into the playoff race? And I'm talking about on the field style of play here. I might be making a mistake, but I'm going to give them the victories against New Orleans and the New York Jets. I don't care about style points. I don't care if it's 16-13 in overtime for the next 2 weeks. I don't care. Just get those victories, get to 6-7.
They don't have a college football playoff. They don't have a college football playoff committee to impress. They just have to earn the wins.
That's right. Very timely of you. Very nice. Very nice. I think one thing that will help them do that, talking about style of play, is running the ball more. And I like that Mike McDaniel has done that. I like that the offensive line has developed a little bit more. I like relying on Devon Achane, and you're doing that obviously because Tyreek Hill is not there. But Achane has proven solid, and I'm glad that Mike McDaniel has gone with him. Of course, it's easier to run the ball more if you have a lead. If Tyreek Hill is not out there, but McDaniel has done a good job. And then, the defense can come up with some timely plays. Washington, if I'm not mistaken, Furones, I think they rushed for 172, and Mariota had that 44-yard run, but Jack Jones gets the turnover. Ethan Bonner gets the turnover. You're making some timely plays out there. So as long as you can do that and you can run the ball, I think that's a good formula for this team, definitely for the next 2 weeks, probably for the next 3 weeks, maybe the next 4 weeks when you count Cincinnati after Pittsburgh. What do you think about style of play? What gives the Dolphins the best chance to get to 6-7, 7-7, and perhaps beyond?
Yeah, no, certainly. It's running the football and stopping the run. And I think the Dolphins have shown that offensively in running the football. I think we're going to talk about a little bit how the offensive line has been much improved and I think has shown the ability to run block and work within the framework of the system of what Mike McDaniel has always implemented. So stopping the run is what's been up and down. So you had great efforts like the ones against the Bills and James Cook and Bijan Robinson, the Falcons. Of course, the Dolphins previously were the league worst run defense, number 32 going into that game against the Falcons before they stunned everyone. I mean, probably what was most shocking was that they stopped the run in that game. On top of everything else they did, with Tua's eye infection or eye swelling, whatever it was that he woke up with. I still don't think we got a clear answer on that, but. Despite his 4 touchdowns and everything else, it was that they stopped the run. So consistency in run defense because it didn't surface against the Commanders. They kind of let them run up and down the field, but then they tightened up down near the goal line. I think both teams did. Yeah. That's why it was a 16-13 final, right? That was a fight. Yeah, 16-13 in overtime. Yep. But both teams kind of allowed the other, like a little bend but don't break, getting goal line stops. Each team did twice, actually, for Washington's defense against the Dolphins. So that's kind of why the score was the way it was. But, running the football, stopping the run, and if they can get back to forcing some turnovers as well, which they did a couple times against Washington, did 3 times in that win against the Bills. We saw that in the win against the Jets. So good things happen when they do force turnovers as well. So that starts with stopping the run. So it all goes hand in hand.
Yep. Before we continue, let's say what's up to a few of our viewers out here. Dead Street, Mr. Dorian Sims, Fitzgrass checking in from Naples as usual. Peter McDowell, what's going on? JD the Great One. Marcellus Temple, good to see you, man. He says it's past my bedtime, but I'm here. Great to see you. Evan Langley, what's going on? Who else do we have here? Lo-Fi Anime. Let's see. FT 4759. Dave Harbor from San Diego. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, Dave Harbor says. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, I will say also. Good thought there, Dave. Oasis Lawn Care. Comrade, what's going on? Grandizer 12. Everybody's in here today, huh? Fred Walter. Nomadic Ballers. What's going on? We got a lot of people in here. Rashad Broken Bro. Good to see all of y'all in here. Let me ask you this, Furones. Where was I going? When we talk about playing style and are the Dolphins in the playoff hunt and things that could help them, what about the return of Austin Jackson or potential return of Austin Jackson and Darren Waller? Larry Bourne has done a nice job there at right tackle, subbing in for Austin Jackson. The tight ends, man, that tight end room, I was pointing it out to you yesterday. That unit was crowded yesterday during practice when we looked out there and we saw Hayden Rucci, Julian Hill,
Dulcich.
What's the guy that they just
Greg Dulcich.
Right. And so it was pretty crowded over there, and I'm leaving somebody out also. I think they might have had 5 guys over there, but Chris Myrick was over there from practice squad, and seems like there was somebody else. But anyway, that's getting to be a full unit. But the potential return of Austin Jackson and Darren Waller, I think if you get Waller and Achane back out there on that offense, you get Austin Jackson back, that can really do some good things for the run game and the pass game. I think you finally have the offense that you wanted to start the season. I know James Daniels is not included there. You wrote a good story today talking about or yesterday talking about the offensive line. It's on sunsentinel.com today. What do you think about the potential return of Austin Jackson and Waller and anybody else who could potentially come back?
Yeah, and you didn't even mention the Dolphins' most effective tight end in recent weeks.
Daniel Brunskill.
Daniel Brunskill.
You're right, Daniel Brunskill. That's right.
Yeah, I don't know how much he works with the actual tight end group, but probably only in team drills, which we're not allowed to see because that's when he's playing tight end, is in the team setting. And so far they have shown no intent to send him out there for any routes and to catch any passes. But we're all waiting for that. We're all waiting for that moment. But certainly his infusion into the offense as a sixth offensive lineman, jumbo package with him out there, that's been excellent. So, and it came out of necessity originally because the Dolphins were down tight ends with Darren Waller on IR and Julian Hill was hurt. So now, Julian Hill's coming back, and he played in the last game, and now that there's a bye in between and everything. So, Greg Dulcich has emerged a little bit. Hayden Rucci has been playing and getting meaningful snaps. But Brunskill is something that they got to keep going to, even as you have Julian Hill coming back. Larry Borum has really stood out in recent weeks, especially in that Commanders game, as he's gotten into a rhythm with Austin Jackson out. But obviously, once Austin Jackson is available, then you're going to trot him back out there. You kind of just, from my perspective, you tell Borum, like, thank you, good job. It's time to let the man who we pay to do this job come back in. But very serviceable, admirable job that he has done, especially of late, including Cole Strange among that, as he's had to start for several weeks now, joining the team after a week into the regular season. So, a lot going on, and then now Jackson's coming back, Darren Waller coming back. That just gives you more reasons for optimism that the Dolphins can build some more momentum.
Yep. I want to say what's up to John Yang, to who else did I see on here that were a couple of our regulars that I missed before? Luis Felipe Benito, who was Mr. Dean Rodriguez on here, Sean Heller on here. What's up to all of y'all? Furones, we're getting some comments in here about Sean Heller says we need some underdogs to come through for us down the stretch. Crazier things have happened. Evan Langley says, Perk, playoff race. Come on, dude. John Yang says the only way McMuffin stays is if he wins out. Tell me about the possibility. Tell me about the possibilities of Mike McDaniel being responsible for the team succeeding. I think a lot of where the Dolphins are right now is Mike's fault. And, I'm of the opinion that Mike and Tua should not return next season. It's not personal. It is because he was given the most talent this franchise has had in the last 20 years. And he's a 500 coach. He's 32-30. And what I see is more of the same. What I want to see from Mike McDaniel is to do something we haven't seen before. So beat some playoff teams, right? You've beaten Buffalo already, but beat New England and beat Tampa down the stretch. Win in December and January. Win some late season road games. Have you seen enough from Mike McDaniel that he should come back, or do you want to see more? And if so, what more do you want to see?
Yeah, so far it's 2 wins. Now, yes, it's impressive to go beat the Bills, and then you go before that the way they beat the Falcons. So Yeah, it's about the process, and I think the process will show if they go and win the games that they're supposed to win. Which now, even as a 4-17, you're talking about games you're supposed to win against the Saints, against the Jets, and don't let these games be close. Don't go and have to win in overtime like you did against Washington, which was a very banged up team in that game. Now both teams are traveling overseas, so there's other different distractions that you're dealing with. It's a home game taken away from the Dolphins, but hey, you didn't have to face Jaden Daniels. You didn't have to face Terry McLaurin at wide receiver, right. Deron Payne at defensive tackle, who was suspended for the one game. You got very lucky with the version of the Washington team that you were facing. So that effort, honestly, will not be good enough if another team, even one of these 2-win teams, just bring a little bit more than they usually do. If the Jets have a better game, play a little bit to another caliber than they normally do, especially in a division game at home, you might not win that game if you play to that level. So you need to show some consistency. And then, down the stretch of the schedule, let's just say, because we're talking about if they're going to be in the playoff race based on, hey, we're seeing these games coming up and this path to 6-7 going into Monday night in Pittsburgh. And if you're a 6-7 team and the Steelers are around 500 as they are right now, then if you want to get into the playoff race, you got to go in there and win that game. There's no excuses of well, we've already won so many in a row now. Yeah, you can lay off one. No, you got to go win that game, especially since that's another team competing for these wild card spots to then get yourself really back into the race at 7-7. Where if you face the Bengals, and who knows if Joe Burrow is then being just saved for next season, or if they do bring him back. I think he's going to play on Thanksgiving night. So who knows what their plan is with him and how the Bengals are looking, if they're already out of it. The Buccaneers now have Baker Mayfield a little banged up now. I mean, I don't know what that means for Week 17 when they face Tampa, but who knows if New England has already clinched a certain spot in the playoffs by then. So, you got to go win a game you're not supposed to, or that you wouldn't pencil in as a win, or two. I mean, really, you do have to win out. Yeah, I mean, I don't think 9-8 is getting you into the playoffs. So, especially with all those teams ahead of you. So 10-7 with some good luck as far as a tiebreaker or something. But or other teams losing games they shouldn't lose. But it will take a lot. But as far as Mike McDaniel, I think if you see that run, and it might not even really come to that for owner Stephen Ross. I think he just likes him, believes in him, and just wants to see the process. And I think he's already shown that he didn't lose the locker room with the way the team has played, coming off of they were 1-6. I think it was 1-6, and then 2-7. From those depths, then these players were still going at it with the intention to win. And the phrase "playing for the coach" is always overrated. Obviously, players got to play for themselves and their careers; it's their livelihoods. But I think he certainly didn't lose this locker room, as some people rush to say during some down stretches. These guys really do want to play under his tutelage.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Mike has not lost the locker room. Mike has never lost the locker room during his 3+ seasons here. The players like him. The players respect him. My big thing this season has been and was that they're going to stop listening to him. We'll see. We'll see if we've reached that point. I thought that we had reached that point, but I might be wrong. We'll see. Furones, let's migrate into our next segment and speaking of McDaniel, we're going to talk about where have the Dolphins improved the most this season. We can go a lot of places with this, right? Offensive line, we've talked about, we mentioned very briefly, Patrick Paul and Aaron Brewer and Jonas Naya kind of leading the way with Larry Borom and now Cole Strange in there. At cornerback, we've seen some improvement at corner, right, where they have gone through a bunch of people. The Jalen Ramsey trade was late. They lose Cater Kohu. Mike Hilton doesn't work out. Kendall Sheffield is thought to be a reliable person, and then he gets released. He comes back, and then he gets injured. Juju Brents was developing into a reliable player. Then he gets injured. Rasul Douglas is just now coming back from injury as Juju Brents leaves. Jack Jones has emerged. Play calling has emerged. We talked about the reliance on the run. And somebody on here was saying the young guys need to come through. Was it Ray Diaz who was saying that? What's up, Ray? Shake Money, what's up? Ray Diaz saying time for these rookies to start playing like they belong in this league. The draft class has been coming on the last couple of weeks. So, what I'm going to say, I think the play calling has shown a lot of improvement. I've liked what Mike McDaniel has done. As I mentioned, I like what those cornerbacks have done. They have really dug in. They've gone down. Matthew Arujo, the cornerbacks coach we talked to yesterday, he's done a good job of shuffling the deck and always finding somebody. I give Chris Greer credit for being able to find cornerbacks. None of them are going to the Hall of Fame. None of them this year are going to the Pro Bowl, but they found serviceable corners. And I think the offensive line has come along with Butch Berry, their offensive line coach, leading the way for them. But I'm probably going to say if I have to pick one area, it's cornerback, because I was very skeptical of that position coming into the season. I think that's where they've improved the most this season. And we saw last game, Ethan Bonner with the special teams turnover and Jack Jones with the interception in overtime. They're starting to come on and make some plays, even if their down-to-down play is still not that great. So I'm going to say cornerback, Furones.
No, cornerback has been great, especially adjusted for what you thought it would be coming in. So excellent development.
Yep.
Getting Rasul Douglas up to speed so quickly because he joined right after roster cutdown day too, or like right then. So he was kind of like he made it so that then they really had 52 spots because then they had just brought in Rasul from the outside and ends up having to play not week one to start because Storm Duck was there and he got hurt, but he comes in that game, and then he starts the rest of the way up until his recent injury. To then have Juju Brents come in and be so serviceable when in that Buffalo game, and then of course he did get hurt in the Washington game. You feel for him, but now Rasul should be able to get back. And then Jack Jones on the other side, making big plays. I mean, we've seen him punch the ball out a couple times, and then in the big game-changing interception, something he's always been known for, his aggressive nature. But Matthew Arujo, cornerbacks coach, I think has sort of gotten him to temper that, and then he now can pick his spots better as to when to be aggressive. So you're seeing that come together. But so I mean that's a great pick. But just to be different, I'll go with the O-line then because. Yeah. I think from within the season, you've seen really an improvement. We talk about Patrick Paul. He's been more than anyone could have expected in year two and his first year as a starter. Now, he's been, for the whole time. We saw it in training camp, but just the fact that he has, been more than you could have imagined in his second season as someone who was raw as a rookie and now his first year as a starter. So, 5 stars there. Right? You knew Aaron Brewer was going to be solid at center, so you're getting that out of him. Jonas Savaiinaya, he's at least improving from probably the low bar that he had set from his first half of the season. But I think you are set, like you said about the whole rookie class, you're starting to see him come along a little bit. Larry Borom, we talked about how he has just gotten into a rhythm as now AJ, Austin Jackson, could soon return. Cole Strange has maybe been up and down, but even Mike McDaniel yesterday, he was saying he doesn't see it as he has a problem at right guard when it was asked to him if, since Borom has been playing well and he does have guard experience in his past, would he consider moving Borom to guard, kick him inside to guard with Austin Jackson coming back? And Borom hasn't played any guard for the Dolphins, going back to training camp. So he's been exclusively at tackle. So I don't think that's really in the cards. Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator, said it wasn't. So I think we'll continue to see it stay that way, especially since Mike believes in Cole Strange and has gotten some level of consistency out of him. All of this while you haven't had James Daniels all season outside of the first three plays, as I did write about. Now it looks bleak for James Daniels to even return at any point this season, and he was your high-priced free agent. That was the investment in the offensive line, was to go get him in free agency, along with trading up in the second round to get Jonas Avainaya, improving both guard positions, and you've kind of had to piece it together with James Daniels out of that fold. Plus, Daniel Brunskills, you extend it to the sixth offensive lineman. And he has been a revelation in those packages and really helping the run game get going and bringing in some extra max protection for Tua in certain instances if he's in there to pass block as well. So a lot going for the offensive line. Some consistency has been found in this stretch of 3 wins in 4 games where you really saw it against Atlanta when they debuted the Brunskill package and really seeing it against Buffalo. You know what? Maybe even a little bit in the Baltimore game because they were outgaining them so much in the first half, but costly mistakes cost them in that game. So I think you've really now seen a consistent approach through this whole stretch into the bye and now coming onto the other side of it.
What's up to Mal Be Crazy? What's up to who else? Billy Batson Marvel. I think Vasily Thurvos had something. What's up, Vasily, that I wanted to read here. And it was about, yes. And when we talk about areas of improvement, what about management? And Chris Greer being gone and Champ Kelly being in. You talked to Champ Kelly over in Spain. Vasily Thurvos says we have fired every type of coach, every style, every type of coordinator, but Greer, now that he is gone, please give Mike a chance. How are we going to know if Champ Kelly has made a difference? How are we going to know if firing Chris Greer, a mutual parting of ways with Chris Greer, was the right thing to do? You know, we've heard Minkah Fitzpatrick and Bradley Chubb talk highly of Champ Kelly and Minkah saying that he sees Champ in the weight room and on the practice field and he interacts with players and all that. But really, Champ has only got a few weeks to make a difference. I'll be honest with you, Furones. People have asked me, I have not seen a difference in the team since Chris Greer has left. You know, it's not like players interacted with Chris Greer all the time. It's not like the GM is a hands-on guy for the on-field product like a coach. But the fact is they have kind of excelled after Chris Greer has been gone. I can't tell a difference. Have you seen a difference? Do you think Champ Kelly has made a difference so far? Can you say that management is better, worse, no different since Chris Greer's departure?
Yeah, good word.
Right.
Obviously, in an interim GM role mid-season, you're limited in the scope of the impact that you can have on the team. The roster has been built since March. Maybe even before that, as whether you decide on extending certain players to keep them off the free agency market going into March. You build your team as far as like the pieces and free agency that you bring in March. You go through the combine to scout and then build through the draft. Dolphins had a big draft class this year. So obviously now Champ Kelly was brought on in March in his senior personnel executive role, if I have the title correct, back then. So limited in his impact on this roster. It's still Greer's roster. 51 of the 53 players that are on the Dolphins roster have Chris Greer's fingerprints on them still. So it's Andre Carter, the outside linebacker, and A.J. Green. So, I mean, a couple of the corner who was signed because Juju Brents went down. So it's a couple of guys who were signed off of other teams' practice squads mid-season. And then plus the only player that has departed with Champ Kelly's fingerprints on the move would be the Jalen Phillips trade. So, yeah, obviously limited in scope. I do think Champ Kelly presents more of a presence than Greer did in that role. You see him, he's out there. He's wearing these suits. He's got this posture, a presence about him. He speaks very well. I'll talk a little bit more about the conversation with him as he was kind enough to sit down with a few reporters in Madrid. As obviously it had to be just such a whirlwind, taking over as an interim GM right before the trade deadline, with a lot of teams interested in a lot of your players, since this was a 2-7 roster or 2-7 team, with some talent on the roster. So obviously, I think he needed some time to really just sit down and talk to the media. Hopefully, there's another one where he's in front of the cameras, and then more people can really see it. And I hope everyone read it, as I try to be as descriptive as possible and really put you in that suite where he talked to a few South Florida reporters who traveled to Madrid. So make sure to check that out. But I'll talk about that a little bit more. I think he does have a certain presence, but obviously the impact of that is limited from that role. He's not actively coaching players, even though he maybe has some coaching attributes. Like you could also see him excelling as a coach, is what I'm trying to say, even though he is a front office executive.
Yep. Utah Fins fan, what's going on? Zoe Vegas 75, what's up? Look, Furones, let me ask you this also, because we're talking about areas where the Dolphins have improved the most. I don't know if I would say that their mentality is an area where they've improved the most, but it's something that I want to talk about and something that I want to credit them for. Because as you say, from 1-6 and 2-7 to staying in the fight, they have not quit on Mike McDaniel. And then you look at things like look, and I don't want to bring up negative stuff, but you did start off the season with the Ryan Crow incident, right? The outside linebackers coach. And then you had the Ramsey trade that was a shaking, jarring event. The Tyreek Hill injury, which was a shaking, jarring event. The Darren Waller drama. When is he going to get onto the field? Can he actually help? And this team has stayed in it mentally. It would be easy after compiling a lot of those incidents to just say, screw it. We don't have Ramsey, and this is kind of a soft reset, and we're 0-3 or we're 1-6, and I'm just going to play for myself. And they've stayed committed to each other. They've stayed committed to the team. And I don't care if it's a selfish interest. Maybe they've stayed committed to their contracts. The mentality of this team, and I've always said this team has a good fighting spirit. I want to acknowledge that. I don't know if it's a area of big improvement, but this team does not quit. I do admire and respect that about this team. Have you made any observations? Are you impressed by their mentality, or do you just think, they're professionals, they should have that attitude?
Yeah, yes, that is true. You should have that mentality. And then in the NFL, it's I think people maybe use this argument in college, are they playing for that coach? That coach is about to get fired, or there's about to be turnover with this program, and they got to let this guy go. You have donors involved who want to pony up the money for a buyout, and they want to get a guy out of there, bring in the next guy. But in the NFL, you have to, as a professional, to keep your job and to audition for whatever other job you might have. The tape don't lie, is what they always say. So you have to keep putting good play on film. This is why tanking never works at the level of the coaches and players, because then that's what's associated with those coaches and players for the rest of their careers, is that they had this right. That coach's record is still going to be labeled by what it was, by wins and losses through a tanking season. So that's why coaches and players, they can never be on board with that. Front offices, they can make it as difficult as possible to tank in the NFL. But yeah, as far as a mentality, I think it's something. I feel like it's something that was always there. It was always just there. But even through the worst pitfalls, I was in the locker room post game in Cleveland when they lost to the Browns, going around to players, and kind of like I was getting to some of them about it. Do you feel players are receptive to Mike McDaniel's coaching at the top? I know no one's going to go out there and say, like, we're not playing for him anymore and this and that, but everyone seemed to say, like, I was there, like, listening to these answers, like, do these guys know that they just lost by several touchdowns to the Cleveland Browns? like this is as low as it gets. You're what, like, if there's a team you should be better than, it's the Cleveland Browns, and you just got you just got mauled by them, and,
Right.
and everyone's still talking
Right.
like the same message, like, yeah, we got to get the next win and this and that. Sure enough, they did in
Yeah.
Atlanta, which was so impressive.
Yep.
The resilience
Yep.
that they showed from one game to the next, with all the noise from the outside, and they really just don't pay attention to it, and they just stick to what's being said inside the building, and so yeah, that really impressed me. That's actually the last thing that you saw before they reeled off these 3 wins in 4 games.
Yep. Want to say what's up to Spin, the Mad Greek. Good to see you. I don't know if I shouted out Peter McDowell. Good to see you, True Blazer. What's up? To wrap up this segment of significant improvement, a couple of people have mentioned Jordan Brooks on here, and that's very wise of them. I don't know if Jordan Brooks goes down as significant improvement, but this is a guy who I think, and probably the people on the texters think, that he has lifted the play of this defense. He has inspired probably this whole team. And so maybe Jordan Brooks gets a separate category. I think we'd all say that Achane is the team MVP. Jordan Brooks would probably be second, a unanimous second, if not get a couple of number 1 votes. What do you think Jordan Brooks has done for this defense? Because, again, I think he's lifted the defense and he's lifted the entire team. I think he still leads the league in tackles. Tell me about what you've seen from Jordan Brooks, Furones.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I do have to check this. He has such a big lead going into the bye. I'm pretty sure there's no way any
right.
Actually, yeah, I think I just looked up the updated stats. I still see him at 125 with Bobby Wagner, who was also just on bye from playing the San Madrid game, at 107 at second place. Everyone else is kind of like just getting over 100 from this past week. So, yeah, Jordan Brooks, I wrote during the bye week, he's doing Zach Thomas-like things again.
Yep.
Because I wrote that story late last season as you saw his tackle numbers, and more than just the tackle numbers, but just to stick to that and focus on that, those were the most we had seen from any Dolphins defender. This was last season, by the way. He's doing even better this year. Since Zach Thomas's 2006 season, his last truly highly prolific tackling season for the Dolphins. He had several, obviously, through the late 90s and early 2000s. So to be in that category, just in that neighborhood. That says a lot about Jordan Brooks and the similarities with Texas Tech guys playing for the Dolphins. Jordan Brooks obviously going through Seattle to start his NFL career. But the leaders that they are, how seriously they take the game and how much they truly invest their heart and soul into things. There are true similarities between these two guys, and how Zach Thomas has actually been someone that in Jordan Brooks's ear, who knowing him from the Texas Tech connection, and then obviously once he came to the Dolphins, so he's mentioned a couple times that he's had good interactions, good conversations with him, including going into this year as well as when he did join the Dolphins. So that's cool to see, and yeah, Jordan Brooks, he really leads this defense. To have a guy like him in the middle of it, that helps you out a lot, because the D-line, we know with those rookies, he's probably had to cover up some blemishes. He doesn't get as a lot of help as a lot of linebackers would like, a lot of off-ball linebackers would like from their D-linemen, to take up blockers, keep them clean so then they can make the tackles. And then, obviously, the secondary has had question marks. They've kind of answered some of those, but oftentimes he's got to go just out of pure effort and running pursuit to the football, make a tackle that someone else was supposed to make, and that's why he's the one making it. So he covers up a lot for a defense.
Yep, I agree. All right, baby. You know what that is. It's not Dame Lillard. It's not Shador. It is time for one of the top 4 segments on this 4-segment program. It is the Furones Bonus.
Oh, Furones Bonus.
I love it. I love it. All right. Furones was over in Spain, his ancestral land, one of the two ancestral. I guess that is the true ancestral land, right? But tell us about Spain. You met with Chip Kelly, the Jack Jones interception. Tua says he would like to play a game in Jerusalem. Tell us about the stadium. Tell us about Paella. Tell us about everything, Furones.
Yeah, maybe Tua not a geography major, number one, or among other things, because there's other ways you could go about that comment, but we'll stick to my experience in Spain. Yes. I don't want to. I don't want to bury the lead, so I'll start with actually after the game. I spent a week in Madrid, and this is my first time in Spain. In my life, so cool experience from that. But then after the game, then I do have family out there, so cousins as well as a great aunt. So I spent a couple days in a city, a couple of hours out, Salamanca, and which I mean, like castles all over, cathedrals, like the oldest university of the Spanish-speaking world is in this city. Wow. And I got to see it, from the 1200s. So the university in Salamanca, I don't know if they go by University of Salamanca, Salamanca University, but they've been around for 800 years. Seeing all this, but also one of those days, myself, a cousin, and my great aunt, we took a car ride out to another small town out there, which is where my ancestors are actually from, the Furoneses of many years past. So a small town called Morales de Valverde, and just like tried to figure out like who knew maybe some of my ancestors that lived there. I know like my dad had given me some tips, and we got it down to maybe the house where like my great grandfather possibly lived, like, or he would have been young, but then like great grandfather, and like put on the paternal side. So like where the Furones name has been passed down from. Even like next door, met this little old lady who had to be in her 90s, and her memory was a little probably faded, but she had mentioned knowing whatever this would be, the sister of my great grandfather, which would be like a great grand aunt or something. So she had mentioned like knowing her growing up, which was like mind boggling. Like this little lady has been there that whole time, right? Like passed by the cemetery there, and I never saw more Furones names in my life. Furones is not a common last name. And I really found like the little corner of the world where we dominates as far as like, because Spanish names have the paternal last name and the maternal last name. They use both. They have two last names. So one or the other. I was saying Furones like at a lot of graves. Beyond the ones that my dad and my great aunt were looking for. So that was incredible. I even saw a restaurant with like my last name on it, and I was like, "This is nuts!" Like a truck passed by that was either from like a construction or a landscaping company that said like D. Furones on it. I was like, "This is really how." In Miami, if I see the last name Furones, I am related to this person. And here it is like a super common last name. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But that was that part of the trip. As far as covering the Dolphins in Madrid, which, by the way, I had three cousins they're all from Salamanca, but now one of them still lives there, but two others now live in other parts of Spain, actually one in Portugal. They all converged on Madrid because they got tickets to this game. And before kickoff, I went and found them, took a little picture with them, in the stands, and then got to covering the game. So that was cool in itself. But the whole week, just touring the city, seeing the architecture of everywhere. I mean, that's just a phenomenal place. Eating the food, I recommend it to anyone. So definitely check out Spain and Madrid, even if you don't have the ancestral ties that I do. But beyond the game coverage was amazing, by the way. Santiago Bernabeu Stadium, phenomenal. Got to tour it a morning before we had Dolphins coverage at actually another stadium, Atletico Madrid's stadium, Estadio I got to go back and check Metropolitan
Okay,
Stadium.
there you go.
That's the one.
Right.
So the Dolphins practice over there at Madrid's other soccer club stadium. That was cool. That's where we got to talk to Champ Kelly, and really impressive when you sit down with Champ Kelly. I want to talk about that, and you speak with him. He has the presence that I mentioned. He talked about his backstory, leading him into his work ethic. Coming from a small town in northern Florida, how adversity hitting him. His father, a drug dealer, mother, a drug addict. He was raised by his grandmother primarily in the small town. How he views this opportunity. How to him, I mentioned the word whirlwind earlier in this program, and also in a question to him, and he put it differently. He said it's opportunity. That's how he views anything, and that he never came to the Dolphins with the idea of replacing Greer, so he wanted to make sure to get that out of the way. And one thing that stood out to me was he's trying to show he can work well with Mike McDaniel, which I think is telling when he said that. If it hasn't already been, since Mike McDaniel survived the mini bye following Baltimore while Greer was let go and the organization parted ways with him, that ownership and the Dolphins brass, I think, still believes in Mike McDaniel. And if Champ Kelly is viewing it this way, it could be hinting at that Mike McDaniel is holding on to this job going into next year, especially with how he has the team a little bit lifted from the depths that they were before, and if he keeps that going. So, definitely check out what I wrote from the conversation with Champ Kelly. He broke down the moves that they made. He said if a team met the Dolphins' requirement for a trade at the deadline, that the Dolphins pulled the trigger on that move. So that would be the Jalen Phillips move. So he kind of negated the it was the Jalen Waddle report about a Buffalo first in 2027 and a third this coming year. He kind of pushed back against that and said, not all reports are true. So make sure to check out everything Champ Kelly said in his first official interview with reporters since he got the interim GM role. But that stadium was incredible. I could see it if one day the NFL went international with the Super Bowl. I could see them going there. Because think about it, Super Bowl, it's already who's going to the Super Bowl? It's a lot of people who got the money to go out there. What if the NFL one day expanding more into this international push that they're undergoing? If one day they had a Super Bowl there, I got to thinking like this stadium could host it. I want to know from people in the chat who might have maybe experienced it from the fan perspective. I hear that that some of the concession stands were difficult to get to. They weren't ready for how much American fans indulge in eating and drinking during a sporting event. so maybe different from European culture as probably a lot of soccer fans, they just stay locked in on the soccer match and make noise for the whole match and don't really go in to eat and drink. So I heard that got a little backed up. I wasn't part of that. I was in the press box, but I want to hear from some of the people in the chat who maybe did also get out there and check it out. But man, like 10 out of 10 trip. It was phenomenal to get to be out there.
It sounds like it was great. And you know what? I should have known that you were from Spain. When I was in Texas, where there's obviously a big Mexican population, we always heard that if your last name ended with an S, you were probably from Spain. And if it ended with a Z, you were probably from Mexico. So you were Furones with an S. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I was always told when I was back in San Antonio and Dallas. So anyway, let's see what. Yeah, that's what I heard. Have you ever heard that?
I mean, I know it's just like different things with the Spanish language, but yeah, it's interesting. I would guess. I mean, I think there's a lot of countries you could be from if your name ends with a Z. But I would guess Texas. Yes. It's more so the Mexican concentration there as far as right. People migrating. I could see that. Yeah, but I mean, all these names, but I feel like a lot of other Spanish names, like if you think of a Diaz, a Fernandez, a Gonzalez, Gutierrez, whatever it might be, I gotta look this up now. Now I gotta check because I feel like those would still come from Spain at their core. But all right, now you got me thinking.
Yep, that's what I've heard. So some people, by the way, people are saying nice job, nice trip. We go to 1775. What's up, Mark Heavy? What's up, C Dola? What's up? Let's see here. The Mad Greek says the most iconic stadium I've been was to Wembley Stadium. You can just feel the history in those places. I agree. I was in Wembley in 2015 when the Dolphins played the Jets, the last game of Joe Philbin. But yeah, that was that was a good one. Let's see. C.
I missed
Dola
out. I
says
missed out on the
Rodriguez.
London. I was just gonna say I missed out on the London trips because the last time they went was 2021, and for us, Dave Hyde went on that one, and then I was on the 23 international trip. Now Bernabeu in Madrid was much better than the Frankfurt, Germany stadium. I mean, like by a long shot. So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the international comparison I got going for me. But I haven't been to Wembley, so I'm sure that one would be up there too. If the NFL ever did go international with Super Bowl, one of those, I could totally see it. Maybe London would be first on the pecking order because they've already had so many international games there.
Right. A couple of people have noticed something that I've talked about, how jacked Champ Kelly is. C. Dola says he reminds me of the Broward Sheriff guy, Gregory Tony. And then Dead Streak said Champ Kelly reminds me of Teron Woodley, the MMA fighter. He looks like a tough dude. So, yeah, Champ he's jacked. He is jacked. So, he can't hide that. Yeah.
That's not your typical GM look, right? So that's like there's a certain, I don't want to go as far as like a respect.
There's like him and Dan Morgan.
Yeah, right. It has to be like a former player, because like John Lynch too, right? So yeah, someone like that who's a former player who then got into the front office side instead of coaching. But I feel like if they speak to a player, like it might resonate a little bit more with them. I don't want to speak too poorly on Greer, but he didn't have the same presence. I think everyone can say that. Like, he might like slouch a little bit. He's not speaking with the same conviction that I think I heard from Champ Kelly talking to him. But I think a lot of fans would see that whenever he does speak in front of have the cameras on him and really have a true press conference if and when that happens. He's a guy who I think the Dolphins have to go through interviews after the season. He's going to interview well. I can already see it. He is definitely going to interview well. And I think he's had already an interview with the months that he's had with the Dolphins. So if they're also considering outside candidates, whether it be maybe like a Eagles assistant GM, Alec Hallaby, who, I've heard great things about on everything he's done in Philadelphia under Howie Roseman. And I think, based on on all that, and he should be in the running for some GM jobs. I know he's already interviewed for GM jobs. I'm sure there's a lot of other names that'll get thrown in there. If it would be cool if like Alonzo Highsmith, got thrown into a mix or something. Champ Kelly will interview well, and he'll be up to snuff with any of the top candidates that there would be if it is indeed opened up to outside candidates.
Nomadic Baller says they ran out of food. We were starving at the third quarter. C. Dola says Rodriguez with an C. Dola says Rodriguez with an S is Portuguese. Rodriguez with a Z is Spanish. That's what I heard. Yeah. So
yeah.
Right.
Like Evan Rodriguez for the Florida Panthers.
All right. Well,
he's Portuguese.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Well, I'm just telling you what we said in Texas. So that's that. Right. We're never wrong in Texas. So let's migrate to our final segment here, Furones, and it is prediction time, baby. Who you got? It is Dolphins against the Saints on Sunday, Hard Rock Stadium. Dolphins, they can't lose this game, can they? I'm going Dolphins 28-17. I think all of the Dolphins' top players should eat, right? Tua, Waddle, Ashan. I know Toodle. That's pretty brutal, isn't it? Maybe that's a new nickname, Toodle. Aaron Brewer, Patrick Paul, Jordan Brooks. They should all eat. Toodle will eat. That's my prediction. I'm looking for all the top players to do good. 28-17 Dolphins.
Okay, so you have Tua throwing a deep ball to Jalen Waddle, and then he does the Tyreek Hill peace sign. He'll tell him toodaloo as he scampers into the end zone. That's the toodle connection.
Right. Wow. That's a new one. That's a new low.
I see how you got there. Yeah.
Tua and sadly, yeah. Right.
All right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I see the Dolphins coming back off the bye at home against a low-level NFL team, winning this one. I got Dolphins 24, Saints 16. This is also the same score that I predicted for Dolphins Commanders against the banged-up Commanders team. But and I think it would have been closer to this. The final was 16-13, but you had goal line chances for both teams come up empty. Goal line stands, fourth downs. So twice for the Dolphins, once for the Commanders, and I think that's why it was a lower scoring game, even though the offensive success rate kind of should have led to more points, I believe. So I feel like I was right on with that one, and then I'll stick with a similar score with Tyler. It's Tyler Shuck, right? Shuck, is that how you pronounce it? The quarterback for the Saints.
Yep.
Tyler Shuck over there. Alvin Kamara got hurt. That knee injury, I don't know what his status is. I think we'll hear more Wednesday to start the week, but not looking good for him. So the run game takes a hit. Obviously, you got to stop Chris Olave. They have an upstart tight end there, Jawan Johnson, who has been kind of nice. I think the Dolphins are really going to drill it. They're going to drill it to the Saints as we hear all the construction going on in the background for you, Perkins.
That's right. That's the walk-off music right there, baby. That lets me know that time has expired. Dead Street says 31-17 Dolphins. Bigota 17-75, 34-13 Dolphins. Billy Batson Marvel says trap game. JD the Great One says 21-17 Dolphins. Vasily Thurvos says Miami 23-17. Jordan Murray, Miami 48, New Orleans 12. So, that's going to do it because, the drills are telling me I've exceeded my time. Thanks to everybody for showing up. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. That is David Furones. I am Chris Perkins. We will check in with you next week on Dolphins Deep Dive with Perkins.
I think it made it a little bit tough when I was like,